Daar sy. Right. So ek hoop julle het baie lekker geslaap en dat julle 'n goeie nagrus gehad het soos wat ons verder indelf in drama. Maar ek dink voor ons begin, Jack, moet ons dalk nie bid. Miskien moet jy net vir ons open met gebed.
Ek maak so. Vader, ons sê vir dankie vir nog 'n dag, Here. Dankie dat ons saam kan wees, saam met U kan wees. En ons vra vandag, Here, dat U hierdie moeilike onderwerp, Here, vir ons maklik sal maak om te verstaan. Dat ons ander kan help wat deur dieselfde gaan. Vader, ons gee regtig ons harte hier vandag in ons tyd om te verstaan waar mense seer kry en waarom hulle seer kry en hoe om hulle te help sodat hulle gesond kan word en 'n getuienis kan wees van U liefde. Vader, ons sê vir U dankie dat ons weet U is in beheer en dat U die een is wat ons lewens en die lewens van ons geliefdes in die hande hou. Ons sê vir U daarvoor dankie en ons gee die dag vir U. Ons is opgewonde om saam met U te wees en saam met mekaar te wees. En ek vra ook dat U elkeen sal in besonder seën vandag. Jesus naam. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Ons het gister afgesluit. We closed yesterday with the core beliefs, negative mindsets lecture. But we said that your core belief or this activating event, it opens up a deep seated belief that you formed because of an earlier experience, and this triggers your negative thought pattern, that triggers your stress response, that triggers your emotions. So that's where we closed off yesterday. It's a lovely one-sentence summary of a huge lecture that we have done. So you guys had to have a chat and then close off. So can I open the floor and ask, did you understand the techniques better as you were getting more familiar with them? And could you identify your own core belief about something, and were you able to identify a negative thought pattern? So I want to open up. We had, I think, 2 groups. So whoever wants to jump in, please talk to us. You all may say something as well. So let's have a chat. I really don't want to ask. No, I don't want to ask questions a specific person. So please talk to us. Anita.
Okay, so we spoke about something that happened, stressful that's happened to me recently, and I'm still in the process of getting through that. So I think I myself realized that I definitely do have I identified some core beliefs that I have, as well as some negative thought patterns that contributed to the situation. For me getting into it to start off with, and also now that I am in the process of realizing the core beliefs that caused the whole situation, I can also relate to the negative thought patterns I'm having regarding this issue now. So
wow. Yeah. It's actually a wonderful revelation to be able to discover your core beliefs. That is one of the most powerful things we can ever help a client with, because once you're aware of your core beliefs, you will know when they are active. So I want to go back to the core beliefs, Anita, just because of what you said. So let me tell you about my morning. Okay, so what was my morning like? So, and you know that today is actually the 14th day of living in our new house, not yesterday. last 2 Saturdays ago, they delivered our furniture. The last furniture was delivered at 6 o'clock at night. So it was quite a big move, but we are incorporating 2 households. My mother-in-law is coming to live with me, with us. So it's 2 households that had to be moved and settled and so on. So it's one of the biggest things we all have to do is called adjustment into a new situation. So this morning, my husband, Yolandi, Craig, can be, I promise you, I opened, he wants to make coffee. It's like the first Monday here. So he says, there's no cups in the cupboard. So I said, open the cupboard door, look straight ahead. There's no cups in the cupboard. I said, put out your left hand, open it, pick up cup. It's got like, what do we call it? Object blindness. My friend, I'm having a new word, object blindness. So this morning, he could not find a hose pipe, the spray fitting for the hose pipe to wet the garden, especially the herb garden, because that needs attention in the heat wave. And he's having a almighty Saturday morning tantrum. It's just after 7. Okay, so I walk out the garden, I go to the tap, and there it is neatly next to the tap. Okay, so it's not difficult to get to. Right, I just get in the house, mom-in-law, there's no milk. I said, it's impossible. I use the milk to make Craig's coffee, it's in the fridge. There's no milk in the fridge. I walk to the fridge, I open the door, so it looks like there's a generational object blindness in my in-laws family.
I think you might start to believe in generational curses.
I think so, because obviously...
Bloodline curses.
Okay, so for me, it's... and I just realized, Anita, just to succumb to, this was just like, I'm getting actually ready for, I read very early morning, I have a scripture, a Bible study group that I lead, so I have to do my postings there. And I was actually mid-postings when all this drama and around me unfolded. And it feels that for me in this place, I must be honest, maybe because of the adjustment, the stresses, I feel very vulnerable. It was just like, really? You can't solve this problem? You know, I'm busy teaching Bible study this morning early, 6:30. Running around, leaving the Bible study to run around to get everybody's stuff done for them. And I want to make sure that my PowerPoint is working and everything before we get to start the day. Can you see that in this place, in the midst of stress, a vulnerability starts to, and I would like to be calm and relaxed when I present a workshop or a webinar, because I'm already stressed about the webinar. All the things that can go, like the contractors yesterday switching off our power and me disappearing into thin air and leaving Jack in stress mode and all that. So there's so many little things you have to navigate because our house is a construction zone at the moment. And there's so many things you have to navigate in this place. So it's true, Anita, what you say, a stressful situation makes you defensive. And the reason we're defensive is because a core belief, I'm vulnerable, I'm helpless in this situation, comes up for me. Especially since I made sure that everything was ready last night before I went to bed. So there should not be hiccups. And just for you guys to laugh at me, there's a problem being overly organized. Okay, so I had the boxes packed, numbered, with content on an Excel spreadsheet. Elena, I worked very hard doing this move. I have a printed copy to the movers explaining which boxes have to be packed in last and which boxes have to be packed packed in first, because the boxes packed in last is the boxes that are unloaded first, so that you can immediately put it in your kitchen where you need it, because we have to eat that evening. So I came home, my mother-in-law semi-invalid, so I came home to the new house to help her settle in and all that, leaving the list. How do men pack a moving thing? They make everything fit like Jenga. No regard to my list. It took me 5 days to find my flippin' pots.
I saw something yesterday, made me think of it. These three men stand on the top of this seemingly deep well. And they look down and they're like, what's that light at the bottom? What did you guys do? And they've got the plans and they turn it around and they said, oh, it's supposed to be a lighthouse. So they built the light in the bottom of the well, but it was supposed to be turned around. It was supposed to be a lighthouse. So
exactly. That's what happened to me, Jack. That's exactly what happened to me. So I learned something because here's the thing why I'm sharing this story. If you feel vulnerable, for me, my defensive behavior is controlling. So I made a list. Because I'm working all the while, I still have my counseling practice. Last weekend we presented another workshop, so it's not as though we are not busy. We are working at the same time. It's practical season and all of those things. So I'm busy the whole time. It's not as I'm not busy. And so I go into over controlling. Just hold on a moment. Giggly. Yeah. So I go into my dog. Go into over control mode, and that causes me to, because it's that loss of security and acceptance. So if I have this core belief, if I'm in control and I know what to do, then everything is going to be fine. But sometimes I think God's just got the sense of humor, that just to show me that He still can sort things out. I need to be more cool, relax, I think. All right. So our core beliefs get activated, especially if there is a loss of security or loss of perfection or loss of rule and ability. And I must say, I want to add something to loss of rule and ability, because I did not think I'm bad or stupid or unworthy. I just thought, to be perfectly honest, I think there it has to do with it feels like you work so hard and nothing gets done right in your mind. That was more my thoughts when it comes to rule and ability. So everything I've planned was just not taken into account. So that was quite tough for me. So thank you for sharing your stories. Core beliefs is one of those things we need to take forward into your practice. But it's extremely important when we look at trauma. Extremely important when we look at trauma. Okay. So now we're going to move into emotions. So what I want to do this morning, I want us to go through these three phases, the first movements of the model. So I want to discuss the emotions of the client. Then we again are going to go into our breakout rooms where you guys are going to look at your stress situation and look at the emotions it activated. And when we come back, we'll probably have a bathroom break or a tea break as well. And when we come back, I want to show you a video. It's about 45 minutes long. That I want to show us about a real trauma that happened. So I want to show it to you so that we can discuss what did you see when you listen to this video. It's an excellent video to watch, and then afterwards we can actually even pause in between the the video and just have a group discussion on what we are seeing. Can you identify core beliefs? Can you identify emotions? Can you identify facts about what has happened? Okay, so let us move on to emotions. What did the client feel? So obviously, yesterday you already told me, it was at Renata's group that said there was already emotionally loaded sentences when we just spoke about the facts. Emotion was already part of the conversation. So now we're going to go from the mind, what you are thinking, to the emotions, what are you feeling. I just want to interrupt myself. You need to go revisit your level 2 contact session, the last one, the second one, where we did the think, feel, do, because it will help you in this place. I'm referencing that, so I'm not spending too much time explaining it because we've already done it last year. So this is building upon knowledge you already have. If you haven't done the join model, then contact Jack, make sure that you join it for them, or if you want to refresh, maybe have a refresher, it's always good. Where we talk about thoughts, activates emotions. So we are now going to talk about feelings. Now, feelings is a difficult concept to understand because how do we define emotions? How do we define what we are feeling? I want to give you a very good definition of emotions. It's a biological state. So that's, maybe you can write that down, a biological state, that's one concept, associated with the nervous system due to a neurophysiological change. Okay, so this is so, there is a biological state, something has happened to the being, to my being. My nervous system is associated with this, and there is a neuropsychological change. Something is not the same, and it's normally associated with our thought processes. This leads to a feeling, and this again leads to behavioral responses. Now, I want to add something that you guys need to know about emotions. There is a hidden spectrum or a hidden horizontal line, let me put it that way, that all emotions fall in on this, let's say this line, which is either pleasure or displeasure. Isn't that cool? If it's pleasure, it makes you happy. If it's displeasure, it creates stress. So it has to talk about pleasure and displeasure. Jack, I wonder before we continue, let's just talk about the emotion of pleasure. Is it, do you think, for Christians a good emotion to have?
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
You can't live a life without pleasure. That is a horrible life. Goodness gracious.
Where in the Bible do we read about pleasure?
Well, the name Eden means pleasure.
Yeah, the name Eden means pleasure. And so,
We
and
were
God
created for pleasure.
Yes, for
And
Eden.
sin has distorted it. But the reason why God created pleasure was for him to please us, in a sense, to give us pleasure, to have pleasure in his relationship. It's part of love. So love in its fullest expression cannot exist without pleasure. It's two and the same thing. So pleasure is critical. But that's one of the things that the enemy focuses on. That's why he distorts it.
Yeah. What is the distortment of pleasure? Who knows?
Cool. No.
Anybody?
Hello, yes, sorry. I think the difference between with the pleasure, the negative and the positive is the positive is you can almost say joy. And the negative is happiness. Happiness itself isn't wrong. The thing with happiness is just that it's a short term emotion, like getting a birthday present or getting an increase. You know, you feel happy the moment you get it, but then it's gone. So some of people, or a lot of us, use happiness almost like a drug. You run towards happiness. You don't perceive joy, you perceive happiness. So you constantly, but it's not something that can be maintained like joy. So you need to keep on receiving, because happiness is something when you receive, where joy is something where you give. So you need to keep on getting to keep that happiness level, and that's what it makes it then it has a negative effect on us sometimes.
The problem with happiness, it depends on external circumstances. That's our problem with happiness. Jack?
Now I was looking at something in the Bible, and now you've missed on. What did I want to say?
Okay, so while Jack is thinking, let me just say the distortion of pleasure is lust.
Yeah, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh.
That's a distortion of pleasure, is lust. Okay, that's distortion. Listen to what I'm saying, distortion. I don't know if you guys are following the news. There's a huge case breaking right now where the distortion of pleasure is this person is in jail. There's huge ramification, child sex trafficking, and all sorts of things are happening in his world. And he's a mega star, and his world is falling apart. So that is what happens. He didn't have a party. He had a freak off. Don't know if you guys have heard of this. Yeah, it's in the news. It's called
Sorry, what was that? Is it just what?
A freak off. A freak off. That's what the party was called. It's orgy.
Is it that Puff Daddy thing?
Yeah.
Okay, Daddy. Yeah, and all of this, it's like this Epstein thing. So all of the Hollywood is a satanic pool.
But this is what I mean. This is the distortion. Anita, did you want to say something?
Sorry, yes, I just wanted to put in the word desire in as a distortion for pleasure. Desire, I think, and pleasure could maybe
they talk about the Bible.
Desire can also be positive.
The Bible does talk about fleshy desires that we have to control. It does talk about that. So it's a place, you see, I think if we have a continuum, so we will say eventually, this is why I wanted to use the word freak off, because it's a now word, it's a new word, it's something that's happening now. So the distortion of pleasure leads to freak offs, leads to this lustful living where we desire only to satisfy the self. And I think that's what Anita was trying to say, because God also desires us to be in a relationship with Him. And He says, you must, because Proverbs says the desires of man is deceitful, so we have to take it and say we desire God. So because desire talks about a need that's unfulfilled, Anita. So desire has got an unfulfilled need. And when we twist it, we try to fulfill this need for intimacy with a freak off. Okay. Right. Just go listen to a little bit of what is happening around this P. Diddy. There's another party which is called something white. That's a different type different types of parties. And if you see the abuse that has taken place in that place and how people in authority knew about it but did nothing. So there's also the lust of money. It's not just the lust of the flesh that was there, it's also the lust of money that has taken place in that continuum. Okay. Again, we're talking about pleasure or displeasure. Okay. Can you see when we start to talk about emotions and we take time to just sit and listen, it expands. We learn so much. So now we're going to explore the client's emotions regarding this traumatic event. So we begin by establishing the client's current emotional state. I want to refer to Ace-Marie. She told us yesterday the client was so emotional, she was actually out of control, so she could not work with her. So she established, without her knowing it, the emotional state of the client and says, we need to take a break. Go write down what you want to tell me and we'll discuss it next time, giving her back some control. You need to gauge the client's emotional state. We don't go in and just go trample all over clients and their needs. What did the client feel? I will show you now the emotion check-in. What did the client feel? Each incident identify the facts that's identified in the facts phase. Look for negative and positive emotions that is in that place, because you feel both, even in a stressful situation. This is what who told us about that, that you continue to move forward in spite of. What was the best incident in that moment was when I heard the police saying, Detective Jack coming to rescue you, or whatever. Why was it a positive? What was the worst that you've experienced? Is it the incident that Esme told us about when they beat me, or when they took off my underwear, or when my husband said, it's your fault? What is the worst of that experience? If the client could go back, what's the thing they could change? You guys, that is a power question. You need to write it in your file of tools. That's the power question. It's a power question. If you could change something, what would you change? I would not climb into the red car I would not go with my friends. I would stay at home. I would stay at work. I would not, because this is part of a blaming, self-blame discourse that goes over and over and over in their minds. What surprised the client? Anita, I want you to go and look at your stress situation and ask yourself, what is surprising me about myself? In your current stress situation, what caused the most pain? Physical, emotional, or even spiritual. Think of our traveler in the story of the Good Samaritan. Maybe the most pain was when, here is somebody that can help you. You are so helpless. You can't even cover yourself. And this person looks at you and choose to step over you and ignore your need. Wow. That must be so, and just how did we know who they were? Jack, this is one of the things I love about the Bible. So it identifies as a priest and a Levite. But how will the traveler know it was a priest and a Levite? By their dress, by the clothing that they wore. They wore visible representation of their office. They were not in jeans and a t-shirt. They had visible clothing on. Maybe that's that maybe why Jesus is telling us that story. Let us take a moment and think of Jesus is arrested. And we know that it's only John who stood at the cross, but there was only one other disciple that follow to see where are they taking Jesus. Who was that disciple?
Was dit nie Simon nie? Simon Peter?
Yeah, Simon Peter, yes. He followed behind, and he was standing outside the jail talking to people. And you know the story, but imagine when he heard that third crow. What happened for him in his heart, in his soul, in his spirit? It's as though he crumbled. It's as though his whole being crumbled, because suddenly he heard Jesus' words again. You will deny me 3 times. Now, just remember, it's the same Simon Peter that chopped off the ear of the person who arrested Jesus. It's the same man in a different stress situation. It's the same person. And then he disappears. We don't hear about him again. We only hear about him when? After he went away. When do we hear about him?
It was when Jesus rose and said, call the my disciples and Simon, because
When
when
the women went to the empty tomb,
Ja.
they ran to tell somebody stole his body. Okay, because that's what they thought. So Peter and John went to look, but Peter was the only one who went into the chamber. John did not go into the chamber, and he saw the head covering lying folded onto one side. Okay, so Peter ran into the tomb. It must have been John was still walking there and Peter ran. Okay, so yes, there is so much depth of story in our scriptures, guys. It's amazing. So let's talk about the tools you guys have. I have put together a whole package of tools to help you in this phase. Emotional check-in, experiences and interpretation. Again, the trauma event timeline, name the emotion, interpret the emotion, intensity, a storyboard, again, reflection of emotion, a thermometer, I love that one, and then the responsible management of emotions. That's a tool that you guys used in your level 1. It was, I can't remember if it's the same module anymore, but it was always module 1 or module 2, depending on your year group. I cannot remember everybody's year group. So emotion checked in. Especially your client, when she was there, would you say she was there in the middle, nervous, and then uncertain, confused, and muddled when she was with you?
Very confused.
Very confused, hey? And did it help her to go write down her story?
Yes, I think she could actually put everything in a proper timeline.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so she was, when she came back, she might be still nervous, but she is no longer so confused or disorientated.
Yes, and I think the fact that her husband doesn't allow her to express her emotions puts her in a state of anxiousness, because now I'm asking her to express her emotions, what she felt, what she was thinking, and you could literally, she went into giggles where she would just like laugh because she didn't know how to express herself, because she didn't
So would you
feel
say
safe.
she was flustered then?
Very much.
Okay. You can see on the left side of it, it is the exaggerated side raged, vexed, is very angry. It's like Giggles being locked into my office while there's people around. She's very vexed right now, or annoyed. On the other side, on the right-hand side, we talk about frustration. Defeated. Look at that. We don't always understand that when you feel defeated, it shows up in passive anger. And then disappointment. So we can say that on the left-hand side is the more in your face active emotions. On the others is more a passive experience of emotion. But it's not as simple as that, but for today's conversation. Panicked, frantic, stressed, terrified, fearful, flustered, uncertain, unknown, unsure, unresolved, confusion, disorientation. Many clients will tell you they are disorientated. So sometimes it helps you to draw up a plan of the house and say, in which room were you? Because I just know they were in a room, but they don't know which room because they were disorientated and muddled. Nervous can irritable, agitated. Agitated is almost like a child with ADHD. They can't sit still. They're constantly fidgeting. They're constantly moving. Distracted. They're not distracted talks about concentration. So they have difficulty in formulating a sentence, or they jump from one sentence to another sentence. Restless, pacing up and down, and so on. Insecure. This is also what your client was feeling. She was feeling insecure and again frustrated. Alert, satisfied, content, brave. When your client came back, she was more alert, Esmery, and now she had to access her brave side. She has to talk about her experience, and that takes bravery.
And I think, especially with somebody like in this case, where, I mean, she's in a household where she constantly, her emotions get put down.
Yeah.
It's difficult for her to express her emotions or to be secure about what she's feeling, because constantly she's being told, you're not allowed to feel like this. Oh, it doesn't matter. You're just over exaggerating. So she's really, really insecure about expressing her emotions.
Okay. So she was very brave because there is a history post-trauma that makes it difficult for her to express her emotions. So now she has to find somebody where she can express. So that bravery is double so. It's really difficult. You must always remember when your client comes to you, it takes guts. It takes enormous guts. We have to know that they are very brave to come. I mean, they're telling a stranger their deep, dark secrets, their unhappiness, their pain, and sometimes even their spiritual disappointment. You know, that's brave. And that's why we keep referring to compassion, safe space where a client may express this. Then there's hopeful, solution focused. I love that. That's solution focused. I want you to write next, or just make a note. When somebody's solution focused, they're also forward focused. There's a difference between problem focused and solution focused. Problem focused is past. That their eyes, they can never do anything because in the past this has happened to me. But solution focused, this is what has happened to me. I have decided, Jack, I'm going to speak to an app designer, and I'm going to put my house on the internet. And when people need to find something, because everything's going to have a code, so when you put it down, they will know where it's put. So if you need to find something, you just type it into the mainframe of the house, because that is the only solution I can ever find to this problem. Okay, when you're in a good
It
space,
actually exists,
I
Lisette.
know.
It's great, yeah.
I'm thinking of going that way.
Yeah, it's easy. Everything has a barcode, and you zap it with your phone, and it shows you where it is, something like that.
Yeah, you get some places got a little sticker goodie that you can just put it on. So, okay, so we talk about confident. When somebody's in a good place, they're confident, they're calm, they're in control, and they are relaxed. Can you see at the bottom, there's a sadness, and the sadness is sort of like there's a little gap between all the emotions, because sadness is your depressive side of the emotional experience. The others are the active side. So this is the depressive side: lost, alone, withdrawn, passive, depressed, despairing, and helpless. This is such a powerful tool. I can't tell you what a powerful tool this emotional check-in and check-out is. So you can use it when you now say, okay, we're not going to talk about the emotions. You need to gauge the client, where are they feeling? But when they leave, you can go and check out and say, okay, how do you feel now? I love using this as a checkout. I always try to leave my client with a forward focus. Always try to leave your client with a future orientation. Explore the emotions. The best way that I can explain this is cut out a little heart. You need to ask, what did the client feel? Let them write the emotions in this little heart. What I like to do is you actually get heart sticky notes, which is powerful. And when I combine it with a timeline, I say, okay, we are at this first incident when you heard the glass breaking. What did you feel then? So I explore each incident, and I use this heart thing and to add it to the timeline. So you can see a timeline. It expands, it grows bigger. It's almost like a huge story that you use. Negative emotions, positive emotions, link it to the incidents and events, evaluate the intensity of the emotional experience. Christelle did it for us this morning when she explained between happiness and joy. What is the intensity that you experience this? We need to talk about interpretation. In other words, what does this emotion tell the client? What did this emotion say to the client? And clarify. Guys, clarify. So important. If I have to ask you now, I mean, you are third years, so you are our senior students. And even in this conversation, and I know it's a bit unfair, but if I ask the distortion of pleasure, we all had to think hard to get to. So we work with emotions, we live emotions, we learn emotions, but emotions are difficult to clarify. Sometimes a client will tell you, I feel disheartened. And you say, explain to me disheartened. What does it feel like to be disheartened? Isn't it better to say hopeless? Which one is better for you? Help them to clarify confusing emotions. In Esmery's case, there was somebody that protected the client from being raped. The client might feel thankful towards that person who protected her from being raped. And that is good. She should be glad that she was not raped, and she should be thankful to. He's still a bad guy. It doesn't make it, but it's confusing because he's a bad guy, but he stopped this. They still attacked her and beat her and stole her money. So he's still a bad man. He's still a bad guy. He's still a criminal. But he protected her from being raped. So she might feel confused. How can I feel thankful when I should feel angry or hateful? Okay. Does that make sense when we say they're able to just work through these confusing emotions.
I think that is the difference, avoiding bitterness in the
Yes,
situation
yes,
is
yes.
trying to look at the positive in it, even if it is a bad state emotion. Um, but
And you
looking for
know,
a positive emotion just to move forward. Otherwise, you might get stuck on the bitterness of what happened.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know, Esmery, that did not kill her. You know, that's another positive that one can take out of the situation. She survived. So, you know, but we have to look, but it's hard to find the positives. It's hard. I remember a client, one of the students told us they were in an extremely serious car crash, and she actually had a back injury, and she could smell the fuel, and she knew the car was going to uh, take court light any minute. And so we stood there and asked, what was positive about it? What was positive about it? She says, I realized eventually the car's going to burn, so I managed to move myself out of the car. See, there was, she took action. So I said, now you took action to get yourself out of the space. So you are a survivor. You are a person who wants to live. Because, you know, the pain was so bad, maybe I should have just died. You know, those thoughts that went through the person's mind. But she took action to get out of the car. I don't know how she did it, but she did. So, yes.
This client at some point also said she wished they killed her because just living with all of this afterwards and having to live with her husband every day, she actually got to a point where she said she wished they killed her.
Yeah, I hear that, but she is also in an emotionally abusive relationship. So there is more dynamics in her situation than just the trauma. Do they have children? Can't remember.
No, he has children,
Okay.
and he that's her one desire is really to have her own children, but he refuses.
Sure. It's a tough situation, eh?
Yeah, she I spoke to her during the week. She is moving out now.
Okay.
So
So let's pray for her, guys. Let's pray for
yeah,
her.
I don't really condone divorce, but I think in this case, it's better.
But let's pray for it. Let's pray for that situation. Yeah, it's not our place to help clients make those type of decisions. Our place is to support their decisions. And I think that's what we need to do. Okay, so let's talk emotional experience interpretation. If she is having an identity crisis, I wish they killed me. It's better than that. What is my purpose? What is my purpose that I have? So this purpose was hatred, fears, anger. What happened for my anger? Where am I extra sensitive? Lisa told us she's got an extra sensitivity towards a certain sound. Where am I extra? And it makes Lisa. I'm going to say it makes you angry immediately. I'm ready to fight about this. Just for an example. What is my self-limiting beliefs? It's better for me to die. My self-limiting beliefs. Sadness, guilt. There's a difference between shame and regret. And in some cases, it can lead to phobias and even psychosis. So there are places where we need to refer our clients and say for the interim, the client needs psychiatric intervention. And that is a good thing that we do that. So talk to people around you. Esmery is in a very difficult situation in Southwest Africa or Namibia. So, but we need to, for me too, there's nobody here that we can refer to in my town. We have to refer them to to doctors in Bloemfontein, but I've established a relationship with my medical doctor who comes to Brantford, and I contact her, and she's my referral for somebody who is suffering psychosis or any other psychiatric issue. Okay. Trauma event timeline. Basic same thing. We add the emotions of the client. Same with the trauma storyboard. It's now plus your emotional experiences. And this is something that the client can do and to indicate how strong is their own emotions. How strong is the anger? How strong is the sadness? Or how cold is it? Whatever. So they can work with that. It looks something like that. And you can add it to each of the events over there. Here I've given you an intensity meter when it's high, when it's medium, when it's low. And we have used happy, sad, anger, fear, and shame. And you can see there's a lot of emotions tied up in that space. And then I want to talk about the responsible management of emotions. The only thing we're going to do is step 1, step 2, and step 3. Okay, so we're going to ask ourselves, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling like this? Evaluation of this emotion. How does this emotion impact my relationship with myself? How does it impact my relationship with the other person? And how does it impact my relationship with God? There's a powerful sentence to just demonstrate this, and it's found in Psalm 23, where he says, He lays a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Okay, so sometimes the person at your table can be an enemy. So like Esmery is telling us in her client situation. So God is the layer of a table, and I have to participate in this table, but there are also other people present, and maybe in this scenario where it is trauma, it's an enemy. And then talk about the relationship if relevant. Talk about this relationship. Maybe it's her husband that's further traumatizing her. It will be a good exploration of that situation, Esmery, for the client to say, is it better for me for a season to step out so I can heal? And so on. Okay. So, because here's the question, is Jesus glorified in that specific relationship? Is Jesus glorified in that relationship? It's a huge question.
Definitely
is.
not.
Definitely not. Hey, he doesn't get glorified in abuse. So just to help you in that point, so you can still support her, because it must be a very difficult place for her. Help the client to identify the emotions. A list of emotion words. This comes from your level 1 first contact session. So you already have this information. Okay, so now it's 9 o'clock. I want you to go and revisit your stress situation. Choose some of the tools, talk about these tools, practice these tools together. And can you identify the different emotions, and can you interpret your emotional experiences? So it's 9 o'clock, so we're going to break till 9:30, have tea, and come back at 10. Okay.
100%.
And be ready with pen and paper for a video. Okay.
Good. Okay, so we'll see each other again at 10 o'clock.
Okay. Everybody is back. I hope you had a good conversation and a break. We're now going to watch a video. It's about 42 minutes long. I need you to take note of what you hear, what you see. Try to think of the victim empowerment model in the before, during, and after of a traumatic event. If Jack, I think I'm going to switch off my video simply because I have to upstream, but we should be able to see the video as well. But if there's something you wish to make a comment on, make a note, or we can make a comment. We can even press pause if you should wish to discuss something. It is really a good video to see how trauma within a community and individuals have an effect on people. So it's called, sorry, Jack, do you want to say something?
No, I was just thinking maybe we can also use the chat box if someone wants to chat there. If you want to ask a question, maybe write it down and then we can have a Q&A maybe afterwards.
Yeah, I debated whether or not to show the video because it's slightly long, but it's so comprehensive that, you know, to cut something out, it would take something away from it. It is from the perspective of a reporter. So there is a bystander that's telling the tale, but you get to first-hand grip of what is happening. Also be aware what's your own emotions as you go through this this story. Okay, it's called the Chowchilla kidnapping. I don't know if you guys have probably heard of it. Can everybody hear the sound? Okay, I'm switching off my video. Enjoy, and you can chat with us. Okay, everybody okay? Do you need a hug?
Lizette, jy's gemute. Ek kan jou nie hoor nie.
Unmute yourself.
Okay, kan julle my nou hoor? Ek was eers van die video afgegaan, het lyk dit vir my voordat hy wou tot aksie oorgaan. Is julle okay?
Baie interessant geweest om almal te sien kyk na die video die heel eerste keer. Almal sit so.
Ja, maar dit is 'n baie goeie video oor trauma. So kom ons gesels 'n bietjie. Wat het julle geobserveer? Wat het julle Helena, sien jou is jy reg om ietsie te deel?
Ja, praat jy nou van die begin af, Lizette?
Ja, enigiets wat vir julle opgeval het. Kom ons gesels 'n bietjie oor wat het jy gesien, wat het jy gehoor?
Ja, maar wat vir my uitstaan oor die hele, dit is vir my verskriklik, dit is verskriklik wat met hulle gebeur het en die hoeveel kere wat hulle moet teruggaan om weer 'n keer blootgestel te word aan die trauma, aan en aan. Ek meen totdat, so dit is hulle hele lewe lank word hulle elke keer weer blootgestel aan hierdie trauma. En die ander ding wat vir my opgeval het is dat die mense wat met die Here 'n pad gestap het, vergifnis kon vind in hulle harte en vergewe en dat dit lyk, ek weet nie of dit so is nie, maar dit lyk die wat nie kon vergewe het nie 'n pad met God gestap nie. Ek weet nie, dit is
ons kan nie die video gebruik as ons point of reference, maar daar's definitief waarheid in wat jy sê. Daar is daar is definitief waarheid in wat jy sê oor dit. Mens kan dit duidelik sien. die pad wat vergifnis vir mens bied, ware vergifnis,
Ja.
en die pad wat 'n mens bied as jy en Mike, die ou wat hulle gered het, die brawe ou, unable to forgive. Die ou wat hulle wat by die gat uitgekap het dat hulle kan uitkom, unable to forgive. Nee. Ja. Daar's 'n aspek wat hy nie kon vergewe het nie. 'n spesifieke aspek. Esmerie.
Ek dink wat vir my een van die ergste goed was, is die feit dat hulle die kinders uitgehaal het en weer in 'n bus gesit het en dan nou in daai kamer ingevat het en gequestion is voordat hulle ouers by hulle was. So vir my was die fout daar om eers die ouers by die kinders te kry, dat hulle eers in 'n plek van veiligheid kom en dan die questioning begin, want ek dink dit is so trauma op trauma. Daai kinders
Dink 'n bietjie vir jouself, nee. Nou word hulle gestroof van hulle klere. En ander keer, ek verstaan hoekom, ons verstaan about evidentiary import, ons verstaan dit. Ons het die kognitiewe verstaan van dit. Maar hulle word gestroop in klere wat hulle word in 'n tronk ingevat.
Ja.
Nee? Lisa?
Ek dink vir my is twee goed wat uitstaan is hoe erg, ek wil net hoe erg die besonderhede ingeets is in hulle gedagtes, is die spesifieke detail wat hulle tot vandag toe kan onthou, soos die ou soos die double sword of barrel en die hollow eyes and looking at death, soos daar spesifieke details wat ingeets is wat jy nie gaan vergeet nie. En dan die ander ding, net om by te las by jou Esmerie is soos, vir my was dit half daai stuk van die bus af om in die gebou te kom by hulle ouers, die paparazzi kan ek nou maar sê, die ligte wat geflits het en vra hulle, hoe voel jy, soos daai honger mense wat hulle nou bombard om, jy is nou eintlik 'n hero of iets, daar's nie.
Hoe voel dit om 'n movie star te wees? Ek bedoel,
belaglik is dit?
Wat 'n belaglike vraag.
En dan die parade uit ook, soos op die parade. Maar ek dink, daar wys dit ook deur dit alles, die inability vir groot mense, of hulle het nie capability om te verstaan of begrip te hê waardeur die kinders gegaan het, sodat hulle kan help nie. Hulle soos wat hulle daar gedoen het, essensieel maak hulle sterre en verheug hulle en sit hulle op 'n vloot en dan stuur hulle Disneyland toe sodat hulle beter voel en iets lekker het, en dit is hoe jy gaan cope.
En ons sien dit werk nie, nee.
Ja.
Dit het nie gewerk nie. Dit
het eintlik die teenoorgestelde effek gehad.
Ja, maar nou kom jy terug van
want is
Disneyland
cheap.
af. Ja, dis waar, Jack. It was a cheap solution. Iemand anders wat wil verder, Anita.
I just want to say that the ages of the children is a very, very vulnerable and fragile ages that it happened. And I think the imprint and the impact it had on their next phases of life, I think it had a great traumatic impact on their development stages.
That's true. And you know, the one thing that the one survivor told you was that taking the children off the bus one by one, and she was the last one to get off the bus, thinking everyone was killed. And even little Mike, when he had to leave, he told you the most difficult thing was leaving that 5-year-old behind. You know, I mean, he's a child. He's 12. He's only 12 and he has to make this decision. You know, yes, definitely. I think that's one of the things that has haunted him. Maybe. Anybody else? There's so much that we can talk about. Karen?
Ek wil net sê iets wat my opgeval het van die emosies is van die kinders self, is hoe hulle op en af is. Die verligting om uit die waar te wees, maar dan weer, nou gaan hulle in die gat af, so hulle is nou in 'n groter probleem. Die verligting om uit te kom, maar nou weet hulle nie waar hulle is nie. En ja, daai op en af, het moet verskriklik gewees het.
Die conflicting emotions wat hulle daar gehad het waarvan ons praat, nê. En dan is ons uiteindelik uit, maar waar is ons nou? Jy weet, wat gaan nou, wat is die volgende? So dit is, jy weet, en ons is ek bly ons is almal bymekaar en daar was dit was my so mooi hoe hulle gepraat het oor die busbestuurder. Het julle dit gehoor? Hoe gaaf was hy? Hulle anker, die enigste volwassene in hierdie proses vir hulle ankertjie wat hulle vas aangehou het en hoe hy met hulle gewerk het, hoe hy opgetree het ook uit sy storie uit. Ja, maar ek is bly jy die emosies opgetel. En kon julle ook sien hoe die emosies was nog deel van hulle lewensverhaal 35, 45 jaar na die event? Nee.
Ek wil net bylas, dit laat my wonder net soos wat was die proses na die tyd of hulle vir counselling kon gaan of so iets, dat ek verstaan dit was soos hektiek trauma, maar dan begin ek net wonder soos, ja, want is daar dan 'n moontlikheid dat jy kan terugkeer na 'n normale lewe toe en dat 'n goeie lewe sonder dat dit jou so affekteer na 40, 35 jaar?
Ek dink wat ek gaan nou vir jou kans gee, Helena. Ek dink net om 'n comment te maak, trauma debriefing was nog nie 'n ding nie. Dit het so tydens tussen die Eerste Wêreldoorlog, hierdie is nou na dit, en die Tweede Wêreldoorlog, maar dit het eintlik begin plaasvind na die Vietnamoorlog, wat daar eintlik trauma ontlonting in sy beginskoene gewees het. En in daardie seisoen daar was nog nie woord soos trauma, emosionele trauma nie. Dit was nog nie 'n konsep gewees nie. Maar die oorlewendes of die survivors have lived into learning about trauma, about the word trauma. So ek dink hulle het as volwassenes deel gehad van moontlikheid van sielkundige intervensie op persoonlike vlak. Net om ietsie anders te noem, daar was 'n geloof, 'n belief that children don't really understand what happens to them, so they don't get so much emotional trauma as an adult. Dit is die era waarin hierdie kidnapping gebeur het. Jy weet, ons praat altyd van konteks, kom ons kry alles bymekaar, en nou gaan julle dalk sit met iemand wat vir jou 80 jaar oud is, wat vir jou vertel van haar verkrachting, en ons moet verstaan dat toe sy verkragt is, was daar nie eers vir haar 'n moontlikheid van 'n opsie om polisie toe te gaan, 'n moontlikheid van 'n opsie vir trauma-ontlonting of berading, of enigiets van die aard nie. En vir die eerste keer vertel sy vir iemand daaroor. Dit gebeur al hoe meer vandag, dat veral as jy begin bedien by ouerhuise, dat sulke verhale na vore kan kom. Dan moet ons altyd konteks gee aan die tydsraamwerk van die kliënt se ervaring. Right. Helena, jy wou ietsie gesê het?
Nee, ek wil maar net sê dat mens kan sien net hoe ontstellend, ek meen op hulle ouderdom, die ou wat gepraat het en daar op 'n stadium wat hy moes opstaan om te loop en te sê gee my net 'n oomblik. Dat daai gebeurtenis is absoluut ingeprint in hulle hele wese van wat so dit is deel van hulle lewe. Dit is nie iets wat gaan weggaan nie. Ek neem hulle leer om daarmee te cope, maar dit is.
Dis half, Lisa, die antwoord op jou vraag. Trauma shapes your life. Dit vorm ons. Want jy kan nooit teruggaan en die trauma onttrauma nie. dit kan nie gebeur nie. Maar met die pad wat 'n ou loop, met die genesingspaaie wat 'n mens deurbeweeg en natuurlik die Here se intervensie, soos wat ons gehoor het van toe hy was 6 jaar oud. Nee, wat is jou verwysingsraamwerk van as jy 6 jaar oud is en jy word vir die eerste keer gekonfronteer met 'n geweer? Wat is dit wat vir jou gebeur op daardie plek? En nou sy storie wat hy gegaan het en uiteindelik het hy besef, en dit is die genesingsoomblik, om die katarsis oomblik in sy verhaal is, my resentment towards them is killing me. Dit was sy woorde. My resentment towards them is killing me. En toe reik hy uit na die Here. En is dit nie amazing hoe die Here opdaag aan daardie plek nie? Wat het vir julle gebeur toe julle die storie gehoor het? Dis hoekom ek hierdie storie met julle deel. Esmerie, jy wou iets gesê het?
Ja, ek dink net toe Tannie nou gepraat het oor die era waarin hulle groot geword het. So daar was nie, ons is nou baie gelukkig dat mental health so groot ding raak. Daar was dit gewees, kinders gaan speel. Ek meen, as ek net kyk hoe ons groot geword het, kinders word gesien en nie gehoor nie. So daai kinders het heel moontlik geen support gekry om actually met hulle trauma te deel nie. Dit was net soos, okay, life goes on, gaan speel.
Ja, hulle support wat hulle gekry het is 'n trip to Disneyland. Dit was hulle support. Jy weet. Dit is soos iemand wat 'n maagvirus het, rykoek te gee. Het sê, okay, this will help a lot. Just eat this piece of cream cake and you will feel much better. Dit is dieselfde tipe van ding. Okay, so volgende vraag. Ons het die kinders as die primêre slagoffers. Wie was sekondêre slagoffers van daardie trauma?
Die families.
Die ouers.
Die ouers. Kan julle een verhaal onthou van die mamma wat by die huis kom en die peanut butter was nie op die tafel nie? Ek kry sommer nog steeds hoendervleis as ek dit net hoor. Want dis wat trauma doen. Trauma ontwrig die normale ritme van jou lewe. Trauma ontwrig die normale ritme van jou lewe. Ek wonder net wat het vir haar gebeur toe sy daar instap en die huis is stil en sy sien, so sy hoor niks en sy sien nie. Daar's 2 negatiewe wat sy dadelik beleef. En toe vra hulle vir die een, mamma, do you think it's a hoax? Ek bedoel, ek was lus om daai verslaggewer 'n face-out te gee. Dis my emosie wat opkom. En ek kan nou nie vir julle sê hoeveel keer as ek al deur hierdie video gewerk het. Rarig! Ja, almal is weg en hulle kan die kinders, en jy weet nie, die ding is, niemand het die kinders kom red nie. Dis die ander deel van die trauma. Niemand het hulle kom red nie. Want niemand sou hulle gekry het nie. As hulle nie self uitgekom het nie, sou niemand hulle gekry het nie.
Sure.
Anita?
Ek dink die hele gemeenskap was ook sekondêre slagoffers. In die opsig van, hulle het beskryf wat 'n veilige klein gemeenskapie dit was. Ek dink dit was nooit weer dieselfde na hierdie insident.
Jy is heeltemal reg. En wat van die polisieman? Die sheriff? Nee. Hy het met soveel emosie gepraat en soveel, ek weet nie of julle mooi geluister het na sy die tone of voice toe hy praat van die hoofbeplanner nie en hy sê hy's 'n sosiopaat. Jy gehoor hoe kwaad was hy vir daai ou nog steeds na al die jare. Nou, ek dink hy dink as ek hulle net in die hande kan kry, wat gaan ek nie aan hulle doen nie. Beslis, die gemeenskap. Goed. van die beskrywings wat die kinders gegee het, daai seentjie wat eers gesê het, ek kon die donkerte proe. Kan julle dit onthou? Hoe donker was dit nie? Dit was asof, hy weet nie om het anders te beskryf nie, het was asof hy die donker kon proe. Een van die temas wat uit hierdie verhaal uitkom, is die vrees vir die donker. Vir dit wat jy nie kan sien nie.
En nou het gesê, het gevoel asof hy die donkerte kan asemhaal.
Ja, Jack, dit was huge daai oomblik. En onthou jy hulle wat hulle gesê het, the dust in the sunshine looked like? Wie kan onthou?
Stars.
Stars! Wow! The dust in the sunlight, the very soil in which they were buried, because the light shone in, became stars.
Dis interessant, as mens deur 'n traumatiese ding gaan, en soos wat hulle deur gegaan het, hoe abstrak die wêreld vir jou raak. Dis hoe die kinders beskryf, en hoe die groot mense, wat dit beskryf toe hulle kinders was, dit wat met hulle brein gebeur, is amper asof hulle ingaan in 'n plek in hulle brein waar hulle nog nooit van tevore was nie. En jy sal agterkom, hulle praat verskriklik metafories, en hulle praat in vergelykings, hulle praat in gelykenisse, hulle praat amper asof dit 'n droom was, met 'n euforia, en dit is wat gebeur met die brein ontsnap in 'n sin, of hy dissosieer van homself, as ons nou 'n ander woord kan gebruik. Dis regtig interessant om te sien.
Die ander rede, Jack, hoekom 'n mens dit so probeer doen, want jy het nie woorde ek het nie woorde om ek het Esmerie se skokuitdrukking gesien toe sy hoor hulle is lewend begrawe, nee. Jy weet, nie dit alleen ruk by ons 'n skoktoestel, dit skok ons as aanhoorders van daai verhaal. Nou kan jy nou dink, vir die belewenis, daar's nie woorde wat jy vir iemand kan gee om hierdie nagmerrie te beskryf, hierdie trauma te beskryf. So ons gebruik metafore om te probeer om die woorde te gee. En Jackie is reg, dit word 'n abstraksie, want dit help my om dit buite my te plaas. Dit help my om dit buite, en dit is soos dat ek bietjie spasie tussen my en hierdie trauma kan kry. En iemand het vir my genoem van die herhaaldelike trauma elke keer as die paraalherings opkom, nee. So die trauma dis nie asof hulle kon aanbeweeg het daarvan nie. Elke 3 jaar word hulle dit weer en weer herleef. Ek wonder vandag.
So hulle word weer geskok. Hulle word herskok met die informasie wat hulle skynbaar kon verwerk het, maar nou is dit amper asof, en dis ook weer die issue, want hulle is nou 'n bietjie ouer, en hulle is nou op 'n ander fase, maar nou word hulle weer teruggeneem. So, dis so half hierdie tipe van vorentoe en terug, en vorentoe en terug. Dis ook om ons praat van gekulmineerde trauma.
Elke keer wat daai kliënt na die paraalhering toe gaan, as hulle weer 6 jaar oud.
Korrek. Ja, hulle word weer in daai rol geplaas.
Yes, hulle is weer 6.
En dis hoekom die een man, jy kan sien, dis vir hom so rou, al het hy deur al die vergifnis gegaan, hy het die Here ontmoet, hy het sober geword, hy het aanbeweeg, maar die oomblik van daai onderhoud is amper asof hy weer net daar was.
Ja, die emosie daar. Nou, Esmerie?
Wat vir my ook uitstaan is, in die keer wat 'n mens die ouens gesien het, wat hulle nou ontvoer het, sien jy 'n sense of arrogance in hulle gesig. Daar's geen remors nie. Dit was vir hulle soos 'n joke. Okay, oeps, ons kon nou geld gekry, nou is 'n bietjie skeef geloop. Ek dink dit is ook 'n ding van iewers moes daar net soos 'n remors gewees het of wys daarmee dat jy so bietjie jammer is, dan kon die victims dalk daarmee nog gedeel het. Maar net daai super
En die ding is,
arrogansie.
alles oor hulle droog gemaak met hulle finansies en hulle het gedink hierdie is die manier om hulle geldelike probleem op te los. Die ander ding wat ek net wil noem, die ouens wat graag na crime investigation programme kyk, weet ons het nou 'n special victims unit wat na kinders investigate en seker tipe goed. En die kinders vandag is nie meer in die hof nie. Maar kan julle daai blou oogdogtertjie onthou en gesê ek sal nie hou nie. Kyk hulle in die oë en ek sê wat hulle aan my gedoen het voor hulle. So hulle is uit die hof, dan sit die oortreders voor hulle. Net so. In 'n ry. Dit het sy eie drama. Daaroor en dan praat ons eers van die ondervraging deur die defense counsel nie. Ons het al genoeg flieks gesien waar defense counsels mense uitmekaar het hom. Ek wonder baie keer of dit nie ook bydra tot die lang leef van hierdie traumatic event vir hulle nie. Because how can you defend somebody who did that? Esmerie?
Ek was al actually by iemand of in 'n questioning gewees van een van my pasiënte wat verkrag is. En hoe die counsel daai of hoe die investigators daai girl uitmekaar uitgetrek het.
Ja.
Dit was my een van die mees traumatiese goed wat ek moes deurgaan saam met 'n pasiënt.
Sure. Ja. Okay. Wat se lesse kan ons hier uit vorentoe vat?
Die tydsberekening.
Tydsberekening.
Ja, en daai een vrou, die dogtertjie wat nou so braaf was, sy het gekies om 'n positiewe uitkyk te hê en besluit sy gaan hierdie ding wen. Wat ook net vir my interessant was van die donkerte, het sy het gesê tot hoe lank het sy gevat om nog met 'n liggie te slaap in die nag. So daai vrees was vir die donkerte wat baie lank saam met haar gestap.
Absoluut. Alsita?
Dink ook, as 'n mens nou terugkyk, die belangrikheid van dit wat iemand ook genoem het, van om die kinders op die regte manier te help. Nie om hulle double trauma te laat hê deur hulle weer op 'n bus te sit, na tronk toe te vat, alles negatiewe goed. Hulle eerder eers met hulle ouers in aanraking kry en dan tog maar ook belangrik ag te slaan op hulle ervaring en hulle belewenis en om hulle te help. Ja, want dit het, hulle sê, die hele familie uiteindelik benadeel.
Okay, so ek dink, jy kan saam met my gesels, so kom ons vat 'n paar dinge wat ons hier uit moet vorentoe vat. Die eerste ding is, dit het 'n hele gemeenskap, dit het 'n hele dorp geraak. Dis die heel eerste ding. Dit het die hele dorp geraak. Die tweede ding is, daar's 'n duidelike voor die trauma, daar's 'n duidelike middeltrauma, tydens die trauma en 'n duidelike na die trauma. Daar's 'n duidelike tydlyn. Ons kan dit duidelik sien uit hierdie klip uit of uit hierdie video uit. Dis 'n baie duidelike tydlyn wat ons kan kry. En wat belangrik is, dit was 'n doodnormale, heerlike vakansies, warm somersdag toe hierdie ding gebeur het. Baie duidelik. Dis baie duidelik. Dat en na die tyd het niks ooit weer dieselfde. Daai een vrou het gesê julle is diewe. Want julle het gesteel by ons. Dis iets wat jy moet leer. Dis iets wat ons moet vorentoe vat. Dis iets wat ons moet uitvind. Wat het die trauma by jou gesteel? Wat is weg wat nie dieselfde kan wees nie? Ek dink dit is een van daai lesse. Esmerie.
Ja, dit is net insane, daai van, dit sal nooit weer dieselfde wees, jy het dit by my gesteel, dit is, dit moet rarig, dit is vir my, dit ruk my in die sin van, dat iemand, soos letterlik, daai een vrou het ook gesê, of die een seentjie het ook gesê, hy het gewonder, hoe sal dit voel om dood te wees?
Ja.
Dis net soos, dit moet rarig baie erg wees om in daai posisie te wees.
Kyk, so, die volgende een is, kan julle onthou, die Michael, die een wat gesê het, hy kan nie vergewe nie, ek het julle mos gesê, deel van die vraag is, wat wens jy kon jy anders doen? Wat sou jy wou teruggaan en gaan beter doen? Hy wou vir sy ma totsiens gaan sê het. Wow, hy wil net vir sy ma totsiens gaan sê. Hy is so spyt dat hy daai oggend nie sy ma totsiens gesê het nie. Wat is daar wat vir hom gebeur het? Want dis ook hoekom hy nie kan vergewe nie. Want dat iets wat hulle aan sy ouers gedoen het, is iets wat hy nie kan vergewe nie. Nou ons weet nie wat het hy daar gedoen nie. Ons weet nie wat het gebeur met die ouers nie. Goed. Dan uit hierdie video is daar verskillende perspektiewe op die trauma. Daar's verskillende perspektiewe op die trauma. Daar's die trauma van die reddingsmense, die polisie. Daar is die perspektiewe van die ouers. Daar's die perspektiewe van die... Imagine jy is daar om klip uit te grawe en hier kry jy hierdie vuilgesiggies wat vir jou skielik kyk. Ek wonder altyd, wat het daai, wie verduidelik? Bel die polisie, hier, dis ons hierdie, want hulle weet nie dat hulle is op die nuus nie. Onthou, hulle weet nie wat gebeur daar vir hulle nie. Dan is daar, hoe lewe ek anders as gevolg van die trauma? Ek kry die een so jammer wat gesê het, I only woke up sober a couple of years ago. Wow. Most of my adult life is a blur. Cannot remember.
Lizette, laas jaar het hulle, laas week het hulle op die radio ook gepraat oor spesifiek die geweld teen vroue en kinders. En toe sê hulle die probleem in Suid-Afrika, onder andere hierdie dat jy die hele tyd dit moet herleef, maar ook dat hulle sê die trauma se after is baie erger partykeer as daai 48 uur wat die insident plaasgevind het.
Ja.
Of die 10 minute waarin die insident plaasgevind het. Want nou gaan dit oor geslagte heen, wat dit daai een vrou se hele lewe beïnvloed en sy sê sy's 'n slegte ma, sy's 'n slegte alles. Nou reageer jy op een of ander manier en ek dink dit is baie erger partykeer as die event homself. Nie dat ek die event minder maak nie.
Nee. Dis 'n goeie aanmerking. Want dis presies wat gebeur het. Dis hoekom dit so hierdie ding oor trauma is so uitstekend vir ons om die, kan julle sien, ons het nog nie eers daar's geen filosofie oor trauma, waar was God toe dit met hulle gebeur het nie. Wat het vir hulle gebeur in hulle geloofslewe nie, ons het nie eers daaroor gesels nie. Dit was nog nie eens aangeraak nie. Iemand anders wat 'n laaste aanmerking wil maak? Enige iemand?
Kan ek
Lisa?
sê?
Ja.
Nee, ek wou net gesê het, iets wat vir my baie belangrik is wat ek raak gehoor het, is dat 'n mens moet net baie seker maak as in ons werk dat ons nooit iemand se ervaring onderskat nie. Jy het dit nou al 'n paar keer gesê in hierdie lesings. Want dit was net 48 uur. Hulle het almal oorleef. Daar's baie positiewe in die uitkoms, maar vir hulle persoonlik is die trauma so groot dat ons dit nooit moet onderskat wat daai effek was.
Absoluut, dankie. Skryf dit neer. Kom ons vat hierdie, moet nooit die ervaring van die kliënt ooit onderskat nie. Laat hulle, jy weet, dit is wat ons het dit nie beleef nie, maar hulle het dit beleef. Ja, dankie Karen. Lisa, jy wou ietsie gesê het en dan is dit Jolandi.
Ek wou net ook genoem het dat ons nie net op die kliënt fokus nie, maar dat jy ook bietjie wyer gaan met die those surrounding the client, om vir hulle ook te equip wat om te doen of hoe om die kliënt essensieel te help van hulle perspektief af.
Ek wil daarop aansluit, Lisa, want as ons die ouers kan equip, in julle videolesings was daar mos so 'n lesing gewees, hoe kan ons die ouers help om die kinders te help? Verstaan, want onthou die ouers leef met die kinders, en as ons die ouers kan equip, dan gaan die kinders beslis meer gesonder daardeur beweeg. Jolandi?
Wat vir my opgeval het is net, en ek dink dit is waar ons kliënte wil kry, is daai ouetjie wat nou die ouens gaan vergewe het, het gesê het, healing continues if you let it.
Yes, let's write that down. Healing continues if you let it. Dis 'n power statement. So hier is die ding, healing continues after trauma intervention. But you have to allow it. En Jolandi, terwyl ek en jy nou gesels, hoekom dink jy moet ons dit toelaat? Hoekom dink jy moet ons genesing toelaat?
Ek dink dit is vir my, dit kom vir my op die vlak van om te surrender, want jy het nie beheer oor dit, jy het nie beheer oor die trauma nie. So as jy op 'n plek kan kom waar jy dit net kan surrender en kan sê, weet jy wat, dit is waar ek is, dit kan nie, dis klaar erg, so wat van, dit kan nie erger word nie, maar wat is die kans dat dit gaan beter word as ek dit gaan toelaat? En om vir die Here toe, kyk, nie almal is op die plek, hulle is kwaad vir die Here, maar op dieselfde party mense is kwaad vir die Here, maar as jy kan kom op die plek met jou kliënt, wat hulle kan sê, maar weet jy, wat as? What if? Wat?
En so, die ander rede hoekom ons dit moet toelaat, because we have to say goodbye to the traumatic self, to pick up the healed self. So you have to say, and people don't want to say goodbye to the traumatic self. That's why you have to let it, and it's a gradual process. The more I heal, the more I'm able to let go. The more I let go, the more I heal. Does that make sense? We explain it like that because we're embracing new skills. Die blauoog dogtertjie wat gesê het, I want people to know I lead a successful life. She was able to let go of her traumatic self to embrace her healed self. Esmerie?
Nee, dit is nogal powerful om so iets van so kleintjie te hoor, dit net om daai keuse te maak.
Okay. Jack, laaste gedagtes van jou of oor die video? Wat het jy geleer wat ons kan vorentoe vat uit die video uit? Dit is so 'n powerful video.
Trauma skep 'n nuwe normaal. Dit is en dit vat my maar net weer terug na ons kan nie onderskat wat 'n rol hierdie tipe gebeurtenisse speel in 'n mens se lewe nie. En as jy terugdink in jou eie lewe, jy het miskien nie so 'n dramatiese ding beleef dat dit ooit op die televisie gaan kom nie. maar moenie die krag van trauma onderskat nie.
Mm.
Dit het 'n geweldige impak. En wat my ook opgeval het, en ons het dit al genoem, maar ek het nie besef totdat iemand dit gesê het nie, maar daar was een persoon wat ons duidelike getuienis gelewer het, dat daar voel vir my daar is hierdie onderskeiding tussen die ouens wat geloof gevind het en wat 'n getuienis het en die ouens wat nie. En alhoewel hy nog steeds daar met trauma, die nagevolge van daai trauma sit en hy trane in sy oë gehad en jy kan sien dit was nog steeds vir hom bitter erg. Is hy ook die ou wat na die tronk toe gegaan het en hom kan gaan vergewe het. So dit sê nie iets van die rol van die Here in trauma versus jy wat self moet sukkel deur die trauma. Ek dink dit is net iets wat vir my nogals uitstaan.
Jolandi, wil jy iets geadd het?
Ek het nog net my hand afgesit nie.
Oor die partykeer bly die handjies weer lank daar so nie. Ek wil net seker maak ek wil julle nie graag mis nie. Okay.
Is Marie nog aan daarso?
Oh, sorry.
Dis jou hand op, is almal net hands up. Okay. Okay. Julle word nie ontvoer nie, moenie worry.
Okay, so wat ek nou wil hê ons moet gaan doen is in julle groepies met julle nou gaan met die inligting wat julle vanoggend het. Moet julle vir my vir 'n gemeente gaan verduidelik hoekom is trauma-ontlanting nodig. Jy moet dit gaan verduidelik. Want trauma-ontlanting ja, dit is belangrik want hierso is die ding. So baie mense gaan na 'n kerkberader toe en ek sê dit omsigtig en intentioneel. En as hulle kom ons bid net en jy moet net vergewe. Vergifnis is 'n proses om daarby uit te kom. Ek stem saam. So miskien kan mens gaan praat oor wanneer is die want jy moet op 'n plek kan kom dat jy gesond genoeg kan wees om te kan vergewe.
Ja, jy het iets nou gesê wat so treffend was dat ons moet in gedagte hou dat hierdie verhaal kom uit 'n tydperk waar daar nie verstaan was hoe die sielkunde van die kind regtig werk nie. En hoe trauma-ontlanting werk nie. Dit was nie algemeen gewees nie. So en ek het 'n vermoede baie van ons kerke sit nog in daai mindset. En hulle wil nie sielkunde in die kerk inbring nie of hulle wil dis amper asof hulle geloofsoortuiging nog steeds in die 1600s sit baie keer, in die 1900s. Jy weet, en ons het as 'n samelewing aanbeweeg en sielkunde het ons gehelp om te verstaan hoe mense sou optree in traumatiese ervaring met navorsing. Dit is nie iets snaaks nie, dis nie filosofie nie, daar is actual navorsing gedoen en daar is resultate wat jy kan
Maar
naseer.
dis is die teenargument van die doktrine wat uit gaan kom, Jack, en hulle gaan nie vir jou sê dis menslike navorsing. God is groter as enige menslike navorsing.
En dis bitter hartseer. Want hulle doen hulle gemeente 'n hengsel onderrig aan.
Want nou gaan jy vir 'n gebedssessie en die persoon sê nou moet jy aanbeweeg. Baie keer forceer hulle die gemeentelid om na die oortreder te gaan en te gaan sê ek vergewe jou. En nou verwag hulle hierdie wonderlike vergifnis instant pudding antwoord en dan kom hulle agter dat hierdie ding werk nie so nie en die trauma wat dan op jou dis 'n dubbele triple trauma. Want dan gaan hulle vir jou sê,
Nee,
moenie met my
ja.
praat oor vergifnis nie. Want
Ja.
vergifnis werk nie, ek het dit gedoen.
So moenie hierdie oefening onderskat nie. Dit is nogals belangrik.
Want julle gaan werk in samewerking met julle gemeenskappe, in samewerking met julle gemeentes, in samewerking met verskillende gemeentes. So die vraag is, hoekom is trauma-ontlonting belangrik? Wat is die doel van trauma-ontlonting en hoe gaan ek dit present? How am I going to present trauma debriefing within a local faith community? Vat julle tyd, praat 'n bietjie daaroor.
Hierso kan julle ook sien hoe belangrik is progressiewe teologiese opleiding. Want jy word gekonfronteer vandag met praktiese teologie uitdagings wat nie daar was 20, 30 jaar gelede nie, bedoelende human trafficking. Was ek daar, maar was die ding nie. Met traumas rondom mense wat ontvoer word oor social media en sulke goeie. So ons samelewing beweeg aan, maar dis amper asof ons geloof geuit bly en oud bly. En die woord van God is tydloos. So dis die teologie en die oortuigings van die mense wat die issue is. Dis nie die woord, dit is wat mense glo wat die issue is. En hulle moet oortuig word dat wat julle glo is nie meer relevant nie. Julle moet verstaan dat God se woord hierdie goeders ook aanspreek nou. En ons het so baie navorsing nou. Ons het nie 'n verskoning nie. Ons het 'n hele wêreld vol kennis. En dis net belangrik dat ons harte teachable bly.
Ons het 'n wêreld vol kennis, nê, maar wanneer dit kom by sekere geloofsgoed, nê, want dis is true, dis is 'n true story. Die persoon is 'n mediese dokter, nê? Hy het hoë cholesterol. Hy weier om medikasie te gebruik vir cholesterol, want God gaan hom genees. Hy's 'n mediese dokter. God is die groot geneesheer. As hy die medikasie gebruik, is hy ongehoorsaam. Julle, this happened, ek het laasweek die gesprek gehad. Laasweek donderdag die gesprek gehad. Laasweek donderdag.
Jy weet my eie ma is die dierbaarste mens, Lizet ken haar, en sy het my van die Here ook geleer, en sy bid al vir ons sedert ek in Doeke is. Maar sy glo vas, die Here gaan haar rug genees, en sy glo dit nou al vir etlike jare, en daarom weier sy om te opereer daaraan. Nou ek verstaan dit is
sy's 'n mediese opgeleide persoon.
Ja. Nee, sy verstaan alles. Ek dink dis dalk deel van die rede. Maar so wat ek probeer sê is geloof speel 'n enorme rol in iemand se genesing. En die challenge is ons moet leer om saam te werk met dit wat bewys is en dit wat die persoon of die kliënt op 'n beter plek gaan uitbring. As daar medikasie bestaan, as daar 'n prosedure bestaan wat die pyn kan verlig, wat die persoon 'n kans kan gee tot genesing, dan is dit natuurlik iets wat ons moet kyk. Maar dan ook die ander kant van die verhaal, baie keer gebruik mense hierdie medikasie, maar hulle wil nie deel met die geestelike of die emosionele sy. En net so die geestelike. Baie keer fokus mense net op die geestelike, maar hulle ignoreer die fisiese en die emosionele. So die Here genees en hy gebruik verskeie middele om dit te doen.
Ja, hy doen. Maar gebruik die kennis wat jy uit die video opgetel het om te motiveer waarom is trauma. Want dit was ons eerste vraag gewees en het gesê kom ons gaan eers deur kom ons leer bietjie van die model, kom ons leer bietjie van trauma, hoekom is trauma-ontlonting nodig. So dis wat julle gaan nou doen. Maar ek wil hê ons moet dit in 'n kerkkonteks sit, in 'n gelowige konteks. Hoekom is dit nodig? Tot 12:00 toe kan julle lekker gesels, dan gaan ons sommer breek vir ete. Jack, ek dink as ons dit was 'n goeie oggendstres wat ons gedoen het. Sal ons 1:15 terug wees, dat ons 45 minute bietjie breathing room, nou is ons 1:15 terug, is dit reg met almal so?
Ja, 100%.
Fyn.
So, dan sien ons vir julle weer 1:15. Ja, ons gaan breakout rooms doen. Ekskuus, ek het gou dit
Ja, ons
opstel.
gaan
Sorry.